Hey guys, Wolfie here. This is RWBY Volume 8, Chapter 13, and the name of the episode, believe it or not, is called Worthy. Now, here I'm just gonna go over, synopsis of like what happened, all that stuff. And the usual disclaimer applies. Any opinion in this video is my opinion only. So that's that on that. And the whole thing was like spoilers, all that jazz. So it's going to be applicable to only Chapter 13. Chapter 14 is not available for the public as of yet. However, later on in this video, I'm going to go over my plans for Chapter 14, believe it or not. So stay tuned to that once it gets to that time in this video. So anyway, when the episode Worthy, it's just like a lot of stuff's going on, Cinder actually asks the final question. Because you have to remember in earlier volumes that RWBY there were only 2 questions. Now, oddly enough, Cinder was able to ask the last question. And unfortunately, certain things, it doesn't go too well for Team RWBY. The whole thing with Blake saying Yang's name, it's like, I have my opinion on that when I get to the Volume 8 Revisited, so that's going to be a completely separate video on that particular scene, where it's just like, Yang took a very bad blow for RWBY, and for me personally, that is another hint of one-sided Bumblebee, because it's like, you have a team where 2 sisters are on the same team, family before anybody else, although Weiss does consider the team to be her family more so than the Shees. Now, the whole thing with Penny, I do feel something's going to happen to her again. And again, the reason why I'm wording it like this on purpose is for the simple reason that regarding Penny, her robotic version died, with evolved in the Staff of Creation, that sort of thing. And the thing is with Neo and Cinder, their uneasy alliance, I think something really bad's going to happen in Chapter 14. So that's on that with Watts. I won't be surprised with what happens to him either way. That sort of thing. And then regarding the whole thing with Winter and Ironwood, I think the whole aftermath of that, is going to set up Ironwood's downfall and his eventual death, because if you guys remember back in Volume 5, Leon Hart actually died at the very end of Volume 5. And the thing is, he was inadvertently working for Salem, and that's, you see with Ironwood, him working with Watts, and Watts reports to Salem. That's a bit of a red flag right there in that regard. Now, the whole thing with that put out of the way, it's not going to be too long of a video, so that's that on that. So we do know that in Chapter 13, Yang's the first to fall. So I do have a feeling that in Volume 9, we're probably going to figure out where she exactly is. That's the feeling I have. I simply do not know, because I do know that after Yang fell, we do know that Weiss was like, hey, we gotta keep a focus on the fight, that sort of thing. So it's a matter of, that with Blake being somewhat hesitant, I think we're going to see a Blake that's quite selfish. And that, again, can really hurt the team. And I think this volume so far is exposing a lot of Team RWBY's weaknesses. The fact that they're not really working as well together as a team as a whole as we think. And the reason why I say that is because the whole thing with, certain things here there with dialogue, the fact that things are not, how do I want to word this? Regarding the whole thing, with, Monochrome, which is Blake and Weiss, or Ladybug, Blake and RWBY, or White, or stuff like that. It's just dude, it's really one of those things is where It's like they're not really working well. If it's not Blake and Yang or Weiss and RWBY, it's like they're not really working well together. And I do feel that Team RWBY has a lot to sort out still. Because if you look at Cinder, she's pretty much 15 steps ahead. And that's partially because of the help of Watts, a tech person. And then, even with Jean, who, so far this volume, he is amazing. I mean, if I would have had to put an MVP for this particular volume, Jean clearly has it. Because it's like, he's got a more like rationale, being really level-headed on an overall scale. He's just killing it in this volume. And in my personal opinion, I think Jean's the only one that's safe in volume 8 in some aspects. I mean, so there's that on that. So with that bit out of the way, like I said, this is not going to be a too long of a video because I do have to get ready for work. So again, to do a super quick recap, I mean, the whole thing with Blake saying Yang's name, I don't feel it's a proper yell or a scream, because a scream would be like, ah! And I did that on purpose because it would be like a few octaves higher if I were to really pull it off. So it'd be like, ah! But we did not see that. And then some people were mentioning, Blake swearing. That did not happen out of Blake. We did get Emerald saying saying ass, but that's Emerald. So so there. So it's going to be really interesting to see with chapter 14, that sort of thing. So that's on that. Now, speaking of chapter 14, which ends volume 8, I honestly don't know how many parts there's going to be. I may do one really long video on that. But what I'm going to be doing for chapter 14 is that I'm probably going to not so much, actually, because to revisit it, I'm going to pull up a prediction video that I did late last year, and debunk certain things off of that. But yeah, with chapter 14, I don't know how many parts there's going to be. I probably maybe anywhere between 3 and 6 parts, because it is quite a bit to dissect. However, is it really worth me dissecting so much? Now, so that's that on that. And the reason why chapter 14 there's quite a bit to dissect is because there's a lot going on, certain things, and then with chapter 14 there is a warning before the chapter even begins. So there's a little forewarning. So, what are my opinions on chapter 13? I mean, some people on Twitter were hinting that this was probably Cinder's volume, and something tells me that I should agree with it, and I will. Because if you think about Cinder, we had a bit of her backstory, but it comes down to how she's getting this good. How is she staying so far ahead? And will it take deaths of certain characters to get RWBY on the up and up? Now, when it comes to certain predictions in chapter 14, I do think there's going to be deaths evolved. I'm not so sure. I'm not going to say the exact number because, like I said, I already saw chapter 14. But if I were to do a prediction on that, I'm going to say it's going to be more than one person. And I don't know who is going to be just yet. But if I were to predict a death in chapter 14, I'm going to go a bit of a wild card and call out Watts. Because something tells me that he finally got outsmarted. And I don't know who yet or whatever, but I do think Watts is going to be a death. Now, mind you, I'm wording it like that on purpose. Now, Ironwood, if I see it, he's a bit of a wild card too, but I say he's going to survive in volume 8, but will not make it past volume 9. And for Winter, I do feel she's going to survive. But it remains to be seen now. With the remaining team members of RWBY, with RWBY, Weiss, and Blake, part of me, feels like, that particular part in the intro that's going to happen. But, I don't know. It's like something, yeah. But anyway, like I said, I do have to get going. I have to get ready for work. So that's that on that. And that's that with this video. So with Wolvie here signing off, I will catch you all on the flip side.